Hello everybody, my name's Manika, and welcome back to the unboxing where I'm sick of Legos. It's time for some actual fucking action figures, motherfuckers. Yeah, finally, some pre-orders I've been waiting on to ship for a good long while have finally fucking shipped. So, it could have come at a better time when I wasn't spending as much money on Lego sets, but that's besides the point. The point is, I finally have the next Spider-Man, the next Spider-Verse figure. And it's one that really fills a gap in the collection because it's one of the main ones. Today we are taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Across the Spider-Verse Peter B. Parker with Mayday. Yeah, I've been waiting a little bit for this. This was supposed to ship in May, but world events that I don't need to talk about quite yet, but are like political or whatever, prevented this from shipping on time. And it was really annoying, because I waited basically my entire summer, and then he just wasn't showing up. Sorry, just ate breakfast. Very burpy. But yeah, now that it's here, I really want to open it, since it's the older of the two figures, I guess, that I got. And it looks like even more stuff's going to end up shipping fairly soon, so yeah. But I really like Spider-Man, I really like Spider-Verse, and I really like this character. So, to start off with, we have the front of the box, which is very similar to a lot of the other packages. It's most similar, though, I think, to the 2099 package that we got. It's this longer, bigger style for the larger, bigger figures with more stuff in them. We have a window to look at a bunch of the stuff that's in the box, including faces, Mayday, Spider-Man, the bathrobe, and then we have this sort of like pinkish, orangish sort of like backdrop that is very Spider-Verse-y. It has like that New York City, but like very simplified backdrop. And then we have a promotional image of Peter and Mayday. I'm not sure, I don't think it's concept art. I think it's just general promotional imagery taken using the renders on like previous ones, which have been more concept art-y. But yeah, it works because it's, Peter and Mayday. It's a Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Both here and here in Japanese, it says Peter B. Parker and Mayday Parker. There's the S.H.Figuarts quote here in this little window printing. It's by Bamco, Tamashii Nations, Bandai. Has the seal of quality. This was a web shop exclusive in Japan, but in America you can get it wherever. It's from Marvel, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, but then made in China by whatever. Anyways, at the top, you get a little bit more of that window so that light can shine through into the actual figures. A continuation of the Peter B look with his cool dad slippers, the name of the figure, and where it's from. On the bottom, this is a Western release, so it has the little choking hazard, bluefin warning, whatever. And then it has another photo of the figure itself, Peter B and Mayday, and it has all the other usual like legal stuff that's here at the bottom. On this side, we get an image of Peter and Mayday swinging through the city. Peter B and Mayday in name. On this side, we get a headshot of the figure, Peter B and Mayday listed right there. And then on the back, we get all our usual promotional shots. We get this one that was on the side of them jumping and swinging through the city with the mask off, and then we have him with his without his jacket, but with like the casual accessories. Other than that, we have the full Spider-Man look. We have him in the full kind of costume that you're buying this set for from Across the Spider-Verse. And then two images of Mayday, both with the beanie and without the beanie. Simple style, heroic action. You know what you're getting into if you've seen any S.H.Figuarts, but this might be the first one you're interested in because it's Spider-Man. But anyways, let's take a look at what's inside this package, shall we? Because that's what we do. We unbox them for the sake of our collections. Hey, open the box, open the box. No instructions on the inside, so that means there's going to be just a separate back slip with instructions, which is fair enough. Sliding it out, we have a lot of stuff to get through, which is a little scary given how the length of some of those longer ass videos. Anyways, I guess it's time to go through it, because, yeah, this set is expensive, but it comes with a lot, and it also has a big figure in it. So, let's get this shit open, why don't we? There goes something. Yipers gripers. I don't think there's tape, from what I can tell. It's just very tightly on there. There we are. Let's get that out of the way. Now that is open, let's get a look at the accessories. I guess we'll start with, something. I need to be a picky little person. I like to start with hands, so I guess we'll start with hands. We'll start with the normal person hands. So there are 2 sets of, ungloved hands. We have these widespread hands, which I guess are meant for, like, holding the baby or whatever. You get 2 of them. They're fairly blocky and, like, I guess cartoony, but I mean, it is a cartoon character, so it makes sense that they would look like this. They do look nice, they're well posed, and they are well painted, but, you know, nothing too crazy, nothing too special. And then the same goes for these more hold the baby posed hands, which are sort of in like a cupping motion of sorts. You could also consider these more of a relaxed hand, but I think they're meant for holding the baby more so. Sorry, my hands are blocking the light, so give me a sec. There we are. Open hands, which are nice, but then you get far more hands with the Spider-Man look itself. So on the figure, you get a pair of fists, but then you also get a set of wall crawlers, or I guess just generic open hands, but they're wall crawlers, which look very nicely sculpted and painted. They have the web lines, as you can tell, hopefully, and that nice texturing that's on the figure. They just look so nice. They do look really good. I like how they look. I like the texturing on this costume. I like the way they chose to do like raised webbing of sorts. That'll be controversial for some people, but I do like it. Then we get a pair of the whippers, as is expected from a Spider-Man. Yeah, you get a pair of the whippers, very similarly done to the previous one. They do look like gloves, so that's nice. And then finally, like with the previous Spider-Verse releases, if I remember correctly, it's been a little bit of time since I got Pavi earlier this year. We've got a pair of web-holding hands. There's like a little hole, and they have the thumb up. So you could use it as like a thumbs-up sort of dealio, but thanks to the hole, they are meant to hold the webbing. Speaking of, since it's not too crazy special, I'll go ahead and get the webbing out of the way now, because as far as I can tell, it's the same as has come with the rest of the SHF Spider-Verse figures. So you get a singular short web, a singular longer web that goes on the wrist. Those just kind of slip between the hand and the wrist when you put it on the wrist peg, and then you have this held hand sort of swinging web. I kind of wish you got like a double set, but unlike 2099, you get a lot of these other webbing accessories from the other figures, so you can kind of mix and match if you need to, if you have the rest of the collection. But this is very expensive. I kind of wish this was a bit more one and done. Moving on, we have, I'll go with the extra legs. We have some lower legs. I'm going to be stupid in how they work, but yeah, you essentially just pluck off the legs on the main figure, if it'll focus. Pluck off the lower legs, replace them in the holes with these, and they look nice. I like that we still get the texturing here up top. There isn't too much bleed over once we get to the skin, and I think the socks are up at different levels, which is very, very nice. And then he's got the socks, obviously, which look very nice, and then especially the slippers, which it's not coming up super well because it's a black on a dark blue, which isn't the most visible. But if I bring the camera in closer, this one says cool, and this one says dad, because he's a dad in this one. It's very cute. And from what I can tell, these feet have generally the same articulation as the Spider-Man feet Ankle tilt seems a little awkward. That might just be it being a little bit stuck. But they're articulated, so you aren't going to have too many issues posing him with those. Speaking of swappage options, you get spare neck. It's another neck peg. From what I can tell, it works about it as well as the normal neck peg, which is good. And it has skin on it, which again looks fairly nicely sculpted, fairly nicely painted. Doesn't look like it was skimped out on too much. But those are meant for the two unmasked heads. We have, if I can get it out of the packaging, we have this sort of smiling face, which looks accurate enough. It's not the worst face print in this set, but it's a little uncanny. Though I'm pretty sure it's meant to be the him being like, "Look at my baby," to like Miguel from the second film, which is nice to have. But yeah, it looks nice. And then you have a more like, I guess, casual smile, which I think looks a little bit better. Yeah, this one to me looks a bit more like how he should look. But it is very nicely painted, very nicely sculpted. Yeah. I think the eyes might bleed into the skin tone a little bit too much on both of them, which might make them look a little uncanny, and I think this one needs a little bit more shadow in comparison to the other one. But they do look nice. They do really well replicate the looks from the film. And going into that second film, we also have the doohickey. This is one specifically for him, though from what I've seen, it's a little bit big on his wrist. But you get one of the little dimensional portal wrist devices, which are nice to see. And then finally, for Peter B. himself, we have the sort of final regalia for his look in this film. First off, we have the parts for the baby carrier. They do look very nice. They're very nicely painted and sculpted. They have that cartoony look to them, but we have the shoulder straps and like the waist strap, which are nice to see. Again, very nicely done. A little bit of detail and love put into these, where they didn't necessarily need to go quite as hard, but I mean, I guess they did because it's very expensive. And then you have the main baby carrier, which you plug in the bits, the back, you plug in the limbs from the Maydays, which we'll get from Mayday, which we'll get to, and then you plug in the head because you can see her little torso in there. And yeah, it looks nice. It'll work. I think it'll work well from what I can tell. I'm not going to go too crazy into messing with like the accessories and whatnot in this video, just because I don't really have the time or the energy. But anyways, the final accessory, which I think is the coolest one and the one that really helps the price, is the bathrobe. And yeah, it does feel very nice. It looks good, in part because bathrobes are already very baggy, so the baggy look of a soft goods item can be better. But this also has bendy wire, starting in the collar, going down the sides, and then into the lower area, which allows it to be nice and posed up, but it does fit him very nicely, and since he's a big figure, it should be able to fit most 6-inch figures that you own, if not look a little bit big. But this is just a very useful accessory in general, and does finish up the look for Peter B. in this film. But finally, let's quickly move on to Mayday. She's an accessory, but she's also a figure in her own right. And yeah, she is very cute. I'm glad that she is included in this set. She has a very nice face sculpt, a little bit better than Peter's, honestly. That really does accentuate like her cute factor, as well as her like hair is also very detailed in its sculpt and paintwork. And then she obviously has the overall look that is very accurate to the film. I kind of wish she had one more facial expression, kind of like with the Spider-Man. I wish it had one more Spider-Man face. But it does look nice, and it has a decent amount of articulation. So there's a ball joint at the head, which is mostly a swivel, but it also has a hinge, which allows her to look up. And then there's a ball joint here at the torso, which is very unrestricted, which allows her to do a baby crawl or be held like a baby, because she is a baby. Her limbs do not move, unfortunately, but that's mainly so you can take it apart and put it onto here. You can see they're keyed on each side, so you can take the limbs off of there, put it in there, and call it a day. But you also get one more accessory for her, and that is, of course, if it'll fucking come out. Come on. That's her little Spider-Man beanie, which is again very good. I think it's missing a little bit of black lining in all of these gaps. I think it's trying to use the shadow there and fail. I kind of wish it had some like panel lining, but otherwise, very nice face sculpt, very cute. The beanie's also done very well. I like its knit sculpting, but also still having the hair poking out. It looks great. It looks just like the film. It's wonderful. I love it so much. But with all of the accessories out of the way, which took not quite as long as I thought it would, but still took a while, it's time to look at Spider-Man. This is actually my first really nice, like, import Spider-Man. That's a Peter Parker, I should say. Because I've gotten a lot of Spider-Mans so far. I've gotten the Miles Morales, I've gotten the Gwen Stacy, I've gotten Miguel, I've gotten Hobie, I've gotten Paviter. But now it's time for a Peter Parker, which is my first, like, super high-end Peter Parker. I've only really gotten Marvel Legends up to this point, so let's do this. But yeah, he is tall. The Spider-Verse figures I've come to, like, I guess, understand and have to accept are kind of in their own sort of 6.5, 7-inch scale, just because I imagine it was a way of getting the thinner proportions in the limbs in the, like, Miles and Gwen, while still, like, having them be nice and posable, which I am willing to accept. I think this was, like, at least for Bandai, the only real practical solution. I've seen other companies make them smaller, but they always have slightly awkward proportions in comparison to the film models. But yeah, let's get the plastic out of his torso, though. Only one bit, from what I can tell. And yeah. Oh my goodness, let me get a feel for him. I've been waiting months for this fucking figure, and it feels so far quite good. I've seen Spider-Mans who do more in, like, their articulation and their posability and in, like, their sculpt. Like, he's having a bit of trouble crunching, which I think is probably going to be a bit of a issue, but this feels premium. I think part of it... There we go, got the waist swivel unstuck. It's a bit of a tough... Not waist swivel, thigh swivel. There is no waist swivel because of the way he's sculpted, so you just kind of gotta make it work with the upper torso. But anyways, let's get into this. This is in this look, it's pretty quintessential Peter Parker Spider-Man. It's got the red, it's got the blue, but I think something you'll come to notice is that there's this nice texturing throughout the entire torso. And a lot of the other Spider-Verse figures have had some very nice texturing to them. The Miles, the Gwen, the Miguel, the closest to being a lot more plain and flat has been Pavi, which I think is accurate to how he looks in the film, but you can see he has this wonderful texturing to him that just looks so good. The head feels a little bit, I guess, small, and I do kind of wish we had more eye options for Spider-Man here. I guess that was something that they couldn't quite do because of the Across the Spider-Verse source material that they were mostly working with, but it's fine. I've also seen people kind of be a little bit miffed about the raised webbing and potentially the color of the webbing, but I do think it does a decent enough job replicating how it looks in these films, because they have like a brown but like slightly metallic look to the webbing in these films if you take a closer look at like screenshots from the movies. And I think this does a decent job of replicating that. I kind of wish, like, the ideal way this should look is it's just printed on. Because, like, other people have said, oh, the Sentinel's more accurate because they are inlaid into the figure, but that's not super accurate either. Like, the way it looks in the film, like, you can see a screenshot here. If it isn't raised up, it's just essentially printed on. Like, the way a Marvel Legends would do it, but that has, like, its own issues and complications, so I get why they raised it up to help these bits really capture the light, essentially. Yeah, it looks nice. The paint also feels fairly on point. I think there's a little bit of, like, overspray here on mine, like, on this back of the, like, red belt bit. The eyes might not be perfect if I look them microscopically, but it looks great. It mostly is painted pretty damn perfectly, and I don't really have any complaints. And, like, I'm fine with little microscopic paint issues. Yes, it's an $130 figure, but I'm not going to be looking at it like this all of the time. Like, ugh. But yeah, this is Spider-Man, honestly. Like, yes, he has a little bit of pudge. You can see they sculpted in, like, the belly a little bit. But he's sucking it in fairly well. And, yeah, this just is, like, that classic red and blue suit Peter Parker Spider-Man that I've grown to appreciate with time. Obviously, that's not to say any of the other Spider-Mans are, like, worse or any way. They're all different characters that have different, like, vibes, and I'm really happy that, like, this film especially was like, we're gonna make Peter Parker, or Peter B. Parker, the older Spider-Man, and make the new generation younger Spider-Man be Miles. I like the idea of, like, I'm a Kamen Rider fan, so I do like the idea of passing on a title, essentially between multiple characters, and have them all be Spider-Man, but them be different Spider-Men, but they're all Spider-Man. You know, like, Kamen Rider O's is Kamen Rider, but he's Kamen Rider O's, and then Kamen Rider Ichigo is Kamen Rider, but he's Kamen Rider Ichigo. You know, stuff like that. Anyways, he does have the sort of, like butt flap sculpt, but it does work here. I've been fine with it. I know a lot of people get fussy about this sort of shifting, like, butt sculpt thingy, but I've never minded it, because, like, you're able to hide it fairly well, and it helps to get the legs in a nice forward and backward kick. Might be a little over-engineered, but it works fine to get those full acrobatic poses, which I quite enjoy. I didn't talk too much, I should have, about the spider logo. They're perfect. They aren't too big, they aren't too small, and they don't get cut off in any way, shape, or form. They just look nice, and I like the way they look. But yeah, the lining on the spider webs is impressively clean, honestly. I've seen a lot of Spider-Men, and a lot of them, this is where they falter paint-wise. The fact that it's mostly, like, there's a little bit of, like, extra red on the back, but, like, the lines all look super clean, and it makes this, again, feel very premium. And it makes it feel like a near-perfect Spider-Man figure. Obviously, he's tall. He is, like, a 7-inch sort of guy, but again, it scales with the rest of the Spider-Verse line. And again, I explained the reasoning earlier. Plus, he just feels, especially for the price, pretty substantial. To help kind of put it into stark contrast, here he is next to Pokemon Gloria Figma, which is, like, a bit on the smaller end, but still. And yeah, he's a big Spider-Man. He's tall. He's lanky. He isn't gonna perfectly fit in with, like, Marvel Legends. Shit. Let's check him over. His paint seems fine. He seems fine. He's fine. Everything's fine. He's fine. We're fine. He has small feet and somewhat loose ankles, so be careful with him standing on a shelf. But anyways. Yeah, I'm gonna get into the articulation now, while we're here, because I like getting into the articulation. So, double ball joint, here at the neck, up here and down here, which allows him to do your usual stuff, which is honestly greater than usual, actually. I think the Miles kind of had something like this, but he's able to look down all the way. He's able to look up all the way. He's able to tilt fairly well. There's more tilt at the bottom than at the top, from what I can tell, but there is good tilt, especially for such an expressive, cartoony Spider-Man. Anyways, he has butterflies at the shoulder, which allow him... I popped that out. Give me a second, I'm gonna pop it back in. Be careful of popping your figure's shoulders out, people. He's able to do that nice full thing, which is good to have. And, like, they are rollable because it's ball joints. He has this sort of ball joint, sort of also, like, universal sort of assembly here, which allows his shoulders to go up that far, which is fine, because anything else, you can have it like that. They are able to go a full 360 as well, which is nice. There is a bicep swivel, which is able to go full 360. Double jointed elbow, which is able to get nice and in. Pretty good curl, all things considered. He has the usual S.H.Figuarts hand peg, which is able to go in and out, and you can swivel it, and it's ball peg, hinge peg, you know, the usual. You're used to it if you've seen an S.H.Figuarts. From what I can see, the most restricting part of this is the torso. There's a barbell dumbbell joint here in the upper bit, and then essentially just it might be a ball joint, but it's essentially just a hinge at the waist. I know people want to waste swivel, but be able to get enough swivel even if it breaks the sculpt up here at the top. I kind of wish there was a little bit more, but it's able to do that. He's able to arch back a little bit. He's able to arch forward pretty dang well, though they kind of want you to use the legs pretty liberally in helping with that. So using the legs, he can crunch up like that, which is pretty good. He can swivel, and he has a hinge to the side that far, a hinge to the side that far, which is good. Legs are a basic universal joint. Like, there might be like a ball joint to it, but it's a basic universal, which is able to kick forward all the way, kick back all the way, and do the splits practically all the way. Could use a little bit more upward, but it works fine. There is a thigh swivel. It's fairly tight, as with on a lot of these, so be careful not to break it. A double-jointed knee joint, which is able to get most of the way you would want. Not quite kicking the butt, but it's fine. This is more than enough. And then foot has a swivel, can kick forward, can kick backward with a interesting cap sort of system, and can hinge inward, which is great. And then you have a toe bend. So yeah, this is, I think, worth it. It's exactly what I wanted out of this Spider-Man. So yeah, I'm really happy to have it, even just as a Spider-Man figure, even just as a Peter Parker figure, even without all the Peter B accessories, which essentially are able to turn it into a completely other figure, which I think is great. It didn't compromise on either being a Spider-Man figure or being a Peter B. Parker figure, which I think I can appreciate. I kind of wish there were like maybe one or two more accessories, especially given the high price tag, but I do think it's really, really good. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry it took a long time to get out. I was just waiting on that pre-order for so fucking long. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to do all the usual YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what other Spider-Man figures I should get. Let me know if there's any that you think will beat this Spider-Man up. Let me know if I should actually take the plunge into getting that Scarlet Spider I'm a little bit unsure about. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!